Hello everyone, it's John Pollock and this is Fight News Now. Welcome to another edition of Fight News Now. I'm John Pollock. Thanks for tuning in as we get you caught up on what's happening in mixed martial arts this week. Today on the show, we have exclusive comments from Chris Weidman and Tom Wright. Dana White reflects on UFC 169. Is John Jones going to be moving up to the heavyweight division? And lots more. Plus, John Ramdeen and Robin Black are here for 3 rounds, and we'll hear from Georges St-Pierre and Cung on this week's edition of The Shift. But up first, we have this week's newsmakers. After stating it was inevitable that he would one day enter the heavyweight mix, light heavyweight champion John Jones is now taking a different tact on the matter. Jones will return to defend his 205-pound championship on April the 26th against Glover Teixeira and recently discussed the heavyweight possibility.
I think I have a lot of work to do in the light heavyweight division still. My goals are to beat Glover Teixeira, beat Gustafsson in our rematch, and then beat DC. And however it plays out, that's a hectic schedule. Those 3 guys are on the prowl. So I got a lot of work to do to stay where I'm at for sure, but I embrace it. And that's the name of the game.
Moving down to the middleweight division, we now hear from champion Chris Weidman, who it was just confirmed will fight Vitor Belfort on May 24th over Memorial Day weekend. Having one successful title defense, the 29-year-old is looking to cement his legacy at 185 pounds with lots of potential challengers beyond Vitor Belfort to keep him busy.
I want to clear out the middleweight division until there's not too much interest in any fights in my weight. And then if there's a fight at 205 that people want to see me fight, I just want the biggest challenges. Whoever the biggest challenge out there, whoever people think that can beat me, I want to fight those guys.
We stick with current UFC champions and now take a look at Renan Barão, who defended his bantamweight championship successfully against Uriah Faber at UFC 169. The controversy over the premature stoppage has taken the lion's share of the discussion, and we ask if it's overlooking Barão, who has now pushed his unbeaten streak to 33 fights dating back to April of 2005.
In 2013, the fight camp everyone was talking about was Team Alpha Man and the hot streak that carried Joseph Benavidez and Uriah Faber to title shots in their respective divisions. However, both fighters would come up short, and at UFC 169, Jose Aldo and Renan Barão announced Nova União as the fight camp to talk about in 2014. With his 6th win inside the octagon at UFC 169, Scarface has essentially cleared out the featherweight division. Rematches with Chad Mendes and Cub Swanson seem to be the only options on the horizon at 145 pounds. But a move up in weight would offer the chance to settle an old score.
São 2 campeões, eu acho que são 2 caras muito talentosos.
Not only about me, I want to fight. Anthony Pettis wants to fight. The fans want to fight. So why not? We are ready to fight, so let's get this fight.
Sounds like we've got a fight. There you go.
A champion versus champion super fight between 2 of the most exciting strikers in UFC history should draw a large audience and offer Aldo a chance to have the kind of performance that would make him a huge pay-per-view star in the US.
You know how hard it is to go 8 years undefeated?
Spinning back kick to the body, flying knee.
Well, it's not just like he's undefeated and he goes to a decision and outpoints you. This dude f***ing destroys you.
While Barão has arguably been the more dominant fighter out of Nova União, with 3 finishes since defeating Uriah Faber at UFC 149 for the interim bantamweight title, the Baron's problem is a lack of challengers at 135 pounds. If former champion Dominic Cruz can get himself healthy, he may be the only marketable challenger that Barão has left. As long as the UFC can find opponents willing to face the champions from Nova União, they should continue to rule the promotion's lower weight classes.
Jose Aldo had his arm raised Saturday night with a unanimous decision victory over Ricardo Lamas. Unlike Jones and Weidman, Aldo is open to the idea of shifting weight classes with the potential of challenging Anthony Pettis for the lightweight title. The fight was originally scheduled for last August, but an injury prevented it from happening. UFC President Dana White likes the idea of the fight and Aldo moving up in weight.
I like Jose at 55. I think the weight cut's much easier for him. And but again, I'm going to throw it back at him. I mean, at the end of the day, he's the king at 45. If he wants to move to 55, I think it's a huge fight with Pettis. Doesn't suck.
É uma grande luta. Eu acho que Como tô te falando, eu acho que eu, o Pettis quer, acho que todos os fãs aqui, se perguntar para todo mundo quer ver. Mas são dois campeões, eu acho que são dois caras muito talentosos que vão lutar para frente, eu acho que vão dar espetáculo para todo mundo. Eu acho que não só nós vamos sair ganhando, mas também os fãs, também o mundo todo vai gostar dessa luta.
Sounds like we got a fight. There you go. That was easy. Got that deal done.
Uriah Faber was unable to capture UFC gold on Saturday night, with many feeling referee Herb Dean pulled the trigger too quickly by ending the fight with Renan Barão at the 3:42 mark. Faber was dejected at the post-fight press conference following a 4-fight winning streak to earn the championship fight and shared his thoughts on how the fight ended.
So it's unfortunate being a guy that's very tough and prides myself on that in a big, show like the one that we had today, where I don't get to fight to the bitter end. But on the same note, Barão is getting better, and he caught me with a clean punch and, went for the kill. So, I mean, I don't know how to defend my, when you say intelligently defend yourself, I'm holding on to a leg, I'm covering my head. I mean, if they're asking me to defend myself, I'm already defending myself. I have to do something. So I put my thumb up, but, it is what it is. It's not like a situation where I can ask for an immediate rematch or anything like that, so I'm just going to get back on the horse.
We are 4 episodes deep into Tough Nations, airing in both Canada and the US, pitting coaches Patrick Cote and Kyle Nogue opposite one another. We recently spoke with the Director of Operations for the UFC in Canada, Tom Wright, about the creation of the series, using a different production company than the US versions of the show, and his thoughts thus far on the series.
We partnered with a new production company called Those Canadians, and they did a remarkable job. It is a fresh look. The people who lead Those Canadians are great storytellers. They cut their teeth doing a lot of work for the Olympics, and I really like the feel. It's a fresh look, and I think you're going to really like the fights that are coming up too. You'll start to see some fireworks, so it's really going to be an enjoyable show to watch, and I'm looking forward to watching.
One member of Team Canada that has already fought and earned a victory is undefeated Elias Theodorou, who got past Zain Saliba in the opening round. Theodorou stopped by our Fight Network studios to chat about the show, his win on episode 2, and getting his personality across in this unique environment.
I'm always curious, like talking to guys as the series begins, because everyone has kind of different reactions. You come home and of course, I'm sure everyone's asking you how it went. And it's like, how everything's figuring it out, but you've got to kind of be like us and just wait week after week before you can talk about certain things.
Exactly. And the $5 million non-disclosure helps.
That makes it a lot easier to keep those lips sealed. Well, you were dubbed Buzz Lightyear by Team Australia. What did you think of the actual show? I mean, you got to live it, but seeing the edited version and maybe some scenes with the Australians and how they reacted to you, what was that kind of like as a viewer?
Yeah, it's really cool because obviously we were living in the moment, and it's cool to kind of actually absorb it yourself. So we're watching everything, or me and the team or whatever like that are actually viewing it all ourselves for the first time too. And with the Buzz Lightyear comment, I actually look like every beige character from Disney.
Now, they also mentioned on the show, they have your key come up and then underneath a random fact, and the one that caught my eye, once charged $500 for a date, like an unofficial hooker here.
Yes.
Tell us the story about the $500 date.
It depends if you put out or not. No, but well, with that being said, as an up-and-coming MMA fighter, you have to make money any way you can. Not a hooker. What ended up happening was I did something called Fund a Fighter. So instead of the usual buy a t-shirt, buy this and that, someone was gracious enough to, Natasha, by the way, hi.
She is watching.
Yes, she was gracious enough to donate $500 for my cause.
Tell us about the process of the actual fight. It's like here you're not around your usual coaches, usual environment, getting ready for a fight. How is that different in working with different people, getting ready for such an important fight especially?
Well, luckily Patrick and the rest of the crew, Crew Ash, David Zimmerman, Fabio Holanda, they were there for us right away. So obviously that really helped. Coaches that want to coach and care, that's a huge thing. But with that being said, it's you're out of your element because it's not the same. And even the environment, the fight itself, it's not the exact same as my previous 8 fights I've had. The best way to describe it, and those that know that train will know what the feeling is, it's like a very hard sparring session with someone really important watching it. That's the only way I can explain it. It's not the same, it's different, but it was a cool feeling nonetheless.
And I'm here with John Ramdeen. And John, quickly, in that Newsmakers, we heard from just about every UFC champion. For your money right now, most exciting UFC champion to watch?
I would have to say Renan Barão. This guy is an animal, and he just keeps taking out the best guys in the world.
And I love paying to watch you and Robin Black chat everything. They actually charge me each week. What am I getting this week for my money?
We're looking ahead to UFC Fight Night 36, and of course, the middleweight picture will be affected, but we'll tell you what other classes will be impacted on February 15th.
Well, you're going to find out on the other side when 3 rounds is up with John Ramdeen and Robin Black here on Fight News Now. We are back on Fight News Now. At this time, I'm going to welcome in John Ramdeen and Robin Black for another edition of 3 rounds. We have a rare weekend off from UFC action before the UFC will run 6 straight weekends of events, beginning with Fight Night 36 on February the 15th.
Thanks, John. The UFC returns to Brazil on February 15th for Ultimate Fight Night 36. In the main event, we have a very, very intriguing middleweight matchup as former 205-pound champion Lyoto Machida takes on Gegard Mousasi. And I know a lot of people, unless they're hardcore fans, they may not know who Gegard Mousasi is. And when they saw him make his UFC debut, he really didn't look that spectacular. So I would imagine the casual viewers would see this fight as kind of an easy fight, a tune-up fight to get Lyoto Machida ready for a possible matchup with Chris Weidman down the road. However, Gegard Mousasi is as legit as they come.
Yes, he is. And he started off as a kickboxer and a mixed martial artist. Always been an extremely high-level striker. The guy has phenomenal boxing and kickboxing, control of range, real power. He's legit. Now, the toughest fight he's had in the last few years, though, is King Mo Lawal, who's a very good fighter, but Mousasi lost a 25-minute bout with him. And you were saying that the Dragon has faced much tougher competition. And somebody on Twitter or YouTube hit me up and said, we had a Zuffa bias. Why don't you go on that saxophone there and tell us who he fought?
This is who Lyoto Machida has faced. Tito Ortiz, Thiago Silva, Rashad Evans, Mauricio Shogun Hua, Quentin Jackson, Randy Couture, John Jones, Dan Henderson, and Mark Munoz.
Yeah, there's our Zuffa bias. Look at that murderer's row of people this guy has fought. From starting with Tito Ortiz, sort of when he entered that upper echelon, it's been nothing but top guys. So that is an advantage, but Gegard Mousasi's striking is phenomenal. I don't see Machida changing things up and really necessarily looking to take this to the ground, although he does have a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and that is a place where years ago Mousasi was a little bit porous, but it's a great, great fight. If this stays on the feet, it'll be perhaps tentative, a lot of feints, but when it goes down, it's going to go down.
I do anticipate that for Gegard Mousasi, he's going to be very, very patient. He's not going to buy into Machida's game of trying to get you to react and get you frustrated. Mousasi is a very cerebral fighter. He doesn't let emotions really affect his performance, and I think it could potentially, this fight may not be as exciting as if, a fighter like Ryan Bader, for example, a guy that chases after Lyoto Machida, who gets excited and gets frustrated. Gegard Mousasi, too experienced to kind of buy into that game of Machida's.
Yeah, a big part of this type of striker is hypnotizing the other guy or distressing the other guy or getting him to do what you need him to do. Bader, for example, like you mentioned, he just kind of irritated him till finally he closed his eyes and stormed in. You do that, and you wake up looking up, counting stuff, going, I think that guy's name is Yves Levine, but really it's Herb Dean. You have no idea what's going on, and you're unconscious. But you know what? Gegard Mousasi, what did we learn out of that Ilir Latifi fight? He was just like, I got to do what I got to do to win this. Patient, incredibly patient. He had a guy with a third of the experience, octagon shock, fighting at home, nothing to lose, and he fought that fight incredibly, incredibly patiently. This one, I think, will be exciting because there will come moments where Gegard Mousasi will be able to pressure Machida, something we haven't really seen.
So if you have to pick a winner, who are you going to take in this matchup that really could mean a lot for the 185-pound class?
You could just go crazy and say Gegard Mousasi because he has the ability to do it. But when you look at that murderer's row that you read off of that device right there, and you look at who this guy has fought, there is just no way that you can pick against him, against fighting a guy who hasn't faced that level of competition. On the other overhand, Mousasi has the ability to win this fight.
In the co-feature, Jacare, submission master, takes on Francis Carmont, the teammate of Georges St-Pierre. And, you know, I know there's been a lot of criticism of Francis Carmont. The guy just kind of stifles his opponents, more focused on getting the victory opposed to entertaining people, where Jacare, yes, his focus is on getting the victory, but this guy either rips your limbs off or he knocks you unconscious. You just see the evolution of his game in that fight with Yushin Okami, and this guy is an absolute animal.
Yeah, the Yushin Okami fight, he was drawing out the left hand. He had a game plan in the striking. He could have taken him to the ground, but he's very tough to get down, and he had an absolute game plan of knocking him out with an overhand right, and he willed it to happen. It was a beautiful thing. Of all the guys out there, this guy, you look back a few years, he's almost has the most potential of everyone. Already a world champion level black belt, incredibly athletic, learns really quickly, has a devastating mindset. He is scary. But Francis Carmont is this new generation of guys. We talked about it on 5 rounds this week. There is a beauty in how the sport is evolving in the increasing quality of defense and the quality to shut other guys down. That's a real thing. It happens in every sport, and it's happening in MMA, and this guy's really good at it. He could shut him down and eke one out.
We're going to talk about some of the important fights on the undercard, a 135-pound matchup. And considering they're kind of running out of challenges for Renan Barão, Yuri Alcantara taking on Wilson Hayes. Not a lot of people knew who Wilson Hayes was. I don't know if the TriStar, I do know the TriStar guys, probably watched tape on him, but in his UFC debut taking on Ivan Menjivar, it looked like Menjivar hadn't studied tape on this guy. He kind of allowed Hayes to dictate the pace and control. I don't think that's going to be the case with Alcantara.
Alcantara's the favorite. Alcantara has 12 knockouts and 12 submissions. That right there, that isn't a couple and maybe some worked out. 24 times he fought. Half those guys were unconscious, half those guys were tapping out or passing out.
And he has 28 victories, so to finish 24 opponents is extremely rare.
Unbelievable. To have the ability to put guys away in so many different ways is very valid. Hayes has 8 submissions. He's a wizard on the mat, but he's never knocked anyone out. Could he do it? You can do it in any given fight. But Alcantara is the favorite, and that first round with Uriah Faber, man, this guy looked like a killer. If he can come out of the gate with that first round again, watch out.
Not to mention he also knocked out Ricardo Lamas, so the UFC's got to do a better job of building these guys up to make, you know, some credible contenders for either the 135 or 145-pound division. We got to talk about our friend Jesse Ronson and Francisco Trinaldo. A great matchup. I think a candidate for fight of the night, considering Trinaldo coming from Evolution Thai, which is kind of an the roots are in shoot box, so to speak, and Ronson, of course, coming out of that adrenaline training center. I think these guys are going to light it up.
Yeah, and you know, you come out of Evolution Thai, you on the feet are willing to engage, and you improvise a lot. And Jesse works all kinds of crazy angles. I like this one a lot. Jesse is the far less experienced in the UFC, but he's a dangerous guy. It's a great fight.
The fights are always exciting in Brazil, and I expect the same from this Fight Night 36, John.
Thanks very much, guys. And for more with John and Robin, you need to catch 5 rounds each Monday night at 7 Eastern for a half hour with those two analyzing and breaking down fights from across the globe. We'll take a short pause, but still to come on the show, we're going to hear from Georges St-Pierre and Cung Le, as well as our weekly viral fun as we continue on Fight News Now. Welcome back, it's John Pollock, and this is Fight News Now. A few programming notes to make you aware of. On Sunday night, it's going to be movie night, as we'll be presenting the 1970 documentary, aka Cassius Clay, at 9 p.m. Eastern. And then we have live boxing coming at you Monday night at 10 Eastern from Golden Boy, as Steve Forbes will meet Fidel Maldonado Jr. in San Antonio, Texas. We'll now transition over to the shift with Priscilla Carapan, who will be joined by 2 of MMA's more popular names.
The Winter Soldier hits theaters this spring, and former UFC welterweight champ Georges St-Pierre plays Batroc the Leaper, a well-versed martial artist. Photos have been released of GSP taking on Captain America, and it's on. You're going to see that matchup in theaters on April 4th. Former Strikeforce middleweight champ Cung Le currently holds back-to-back wins in the octagon, but when he's not fighting in the cage, he's busy making movies. We recently caught up with Le to chat about his favorite flicks and his role as a fight choreographer.
The former Strikeforce middleweight champion, Cung Le!
The movie that most influenced me is Enter the Dragon. Of course, after he passed, the more popular movies were from Shaw Brothers, 5 Deadly Venoms to 36 Chambers of Shaolin, and that got me hooked. Now I'm more watching it to how would I choreograph a better fight scene than that, because I finally got my opportunity from doing all these movies, from fighting with Channing Tatum to Pandorum with Ben Foster, Dennis Quaid. Every single movie I was on, the fight coordinator or the stunt guys would be like, "What do you think, Cung? What do you think, Cung?" Being an Asian, it's hard. I'm competing against producers that are Asians, are the guys that you put in the background, or you put in as the killer, or someone to get killed, or to be the comic relief. With all the scripts that I've been presented and all the roles that my agents asked me to audition for, sometimes I'm like, I'm not gonna audition for this one. That's stereotyping an Asian, and I'm not gonna do it. Then a lot of parts where I'm not skinny enough, or my eyes are not slanted enough, and I was just like, what I want to do is I want to produce, I want to raise my own funds, and I want to do the movies that I want to do. Slowly but surely, it's happening. There's a project coming up, me and Dolph, as me being the good guy, Dolph being the bad guy. Of course, we're gonna meet and throw some stuff at each other.
That's it for The Shift this week. Back over to you, John.
Thank you, Priscilla. And as time winds down on this week's show, we have to make sure to squeeze this in. It's our weekly viral video, and it's coming up right now. Our cameraman, Sean McCormick, is currently in tears having watched that video. And that brings Fight News now to a close. I want to thank everyone for tuning in, and all of our guests, including Chris Weidman, Tom Wright, John Jones, Georges St-Pierre, and Cung Lee. This week on the MMA Report, I'm going to be chatting with Daniel Cormier ahead of UFC 170, and you can catch that Thursday in the podcast section of FightNetwork.com. Forbes versus Maldonado Jr. is airing live Monday night at 10 Eastern here on Fight Network. And on behalf of John Ramdeen, Robin Black, Priscilla Carapan, and the Fight Network crew, I'm John Pollock, and thanks for checking out Fight News Now.